Freudenberg. I will be your therapist today. So I kind of looked at your file, and it appears that you're struggling with anxiety related to wrestling.
hmm
So why don't you talk a little bit about that and kind of what brought you into the clinic today?
well, I was just recently injured with a shoulder injury during practice, and um, it really just I spent about a week just kind of like down, little like essentially like defeated, like just depressed, and I'm confused. I'm still kind of there. I'm having a hard time. There are glimpses of where I can be. I feel like I'm mentally strong enough to the point where I can make myself just be happy and just make that decision, but Um, otherwise, I kind of at some points I feel kind of just worthless to myself and also the team because I can't wrestle and it's weird just because I put so much work into it and then I get hurt. So I'm like, oh, where do I stand now? Like, what's even my worth? And that I still about the team and stuff, but I'm just still anxious about it, and I'm kind of nervous what they think of me sometimes. Uh, yeah.
Do you only get anxious in periods of time where you feel like you don't wrestle well enough to your standard, or is this just a constant thing in other areas of your life besides just wrestling?
Um, you're saying, do I have constant anxiety and many other things besides wrestling?
Right.
Um, yeah, yes. There's a level I feel like I put pressure on myself for every aspect of life, like socially and academically and with sports as well. Um, used to the pressure used to be really bad socially, but it's not so bad now. That like I feel like 80% of my pressure is on wrestling, so it's really hard for me to be satisfied, I guess.
Okay. Um, so when you feel like you don't wrestle well, what kind of goes through your head? What are your main thoughts while you're thinking that you're not performing as well as you could in terms of wrestling?
Like during a match, like if I'm like losing or something like that.
Yeah, well, that or just in general.
Um, I that's a good question. I think that it's immediately negative. I guess it's kind of matter if I correct it or not, and make it positive. But it goes straight to I'm already behind. Like I'm already behind where I want to be, and where I want to be is just winning. Like I lost my first match. Like I hadn't won a match this year. I've lost four, and I lost my first match, and right after that, I was just like, "You're already off to a bad start. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're already behind where you want to be, you know." And that was my first thoughts about that. So it's almost impossible for me to be okay with me, I guess.
Yeah, so that's really tough, and I can understand um, why you would feel so down about yourself, especially after you lose your first match. Um, does it just kind of um, does it just kind of stay with you when you feel like you're losing? Does it feel like you can't get over that thought? Does it feel like you can't move past that and do better in other matches if you lose your first match, or do you eventually get over it? What kind of thoughts go through your head um, during the period of time in which you lose your first match and then the matches that follow that same tournament?
Um, I feel like there's a lot of shoulds that go on in my head. Like if I lose, then I should not be happy. I should not be even remotely enjoying myself at all. Um, and then I see like one of my teammates, he's the best on the team. His name is Ben Henley, and he's like he'll lose and he'll get over it in like 10 minutes, and he's just back to like just being himself. And and I'm like, why don't I do that? Like why do I think that's not okay to do? To like be happy if I lose. Um, and do I think that it's impossible to get past? Um, no, but it takes a while for me to get back to a normal state. Like it may take a week. It's the resilience level is very low, so maybe a week for me to actually forgive myself for for losing.
So it kind of sounds like you're engaging in this very self-perception um, type engagement where you're comparing yourself to people that are better on the team, and you're thinking to yourself, well, why can't I do that? Or why, if I only did this, then, I could be able to move on faster. Or why am I not like Henley where I can wrestle and lose a match and then move on right away? And so um, that would seem really tough. And so I kind of understand where you're coming from with that regard. Um, do you feel like losing a match stops you from um, engaging in more positive reinforcement, or do you feel like losing a match messes up the rest of your um, matches for the rest of your tournament?
Um, yeah, like I said before, like the resilience thing where I don't like get over it, and it can be kind of self fulfilling where it's like, oh, I lost, I'm already behind, I'm gonna continue to be behind, and I'm gonna prove to myself that I'm behind by um, not wrestling the way that I want. However, like it's been way worse in past years. Like the way I'm wrestling this year is exactly the way that I want to wrestle. But how I am off the mat with my head is not the way I want to be. I'm very unrelenting in my own head to myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, by the time other matches start, I'm good to go. Um, but it's now to a point. Like if there's a tournament this coming weekend, if I think I'll be good to go by then with my shoulder. But if I lose like my first match, to me right now that would be like catastrophic. Like I have no wins. That would just be um, that's where it's pretty like catastrophizing, I guess. Like if you know what I mean.
So it sounds like wrestling is a huge value to you, and you really enjoy wrestling, and
Mm-hmm.
it's something that you love doing, and it's a passion of yours. So why do you think that you have these huge negative self-perceptions of yourself when you lose a match? And why do you think it takes so long for you to get over um, losing a match?
Um, um, I don't, a big thing for me is also, I guess, proving to my parents I'm doing well. And I feel like I can't prove them that I'm doing well until I win a match. So it may last until I win a match.
Mm-hmm.
This kind of self defeating attitude. And it may last until I win a match, so it may last a week, but that attitude could actually affect my matches. And then I lose and lose and lose, and it gets worse, you know.
Mm-hmm. So, from a cognitive behavioral approach, um, these types of therapists will argue that your thoughts directly lead to your mood, your behavior, what you're engaging in, the situation that you are perceiving, um, in the context that you're in. And so it sounds like largely when you lose a match, that's affecting your mood for the next match. It's affecting the situation that you place yourself in. It's affecting how you perceive others in your life, that you're trying to do well with your family, that you're trying to prove to them that you're performing at the top level, and that you're enjoying the passion that you have for wrestling. And so I heard a couple of things that you were saying in regards to, I should have done that, or I want to be like Henley to wrestle better, or I don't feel like I'm adequate enough if I lose a match, and I can never get over it if I lose. And so from a CBT perspective, those are called kind of fallacies in your thinking. And so basically what that means is that you're filtering out specific things, or you're focusing on very specific negative aspects of the situation or the context that you're in, and then that is what kind of derives your mood in the situation that you place yourself in a different context, or in a different area, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
So it would make sense then that if you lose your first match, that you would feel these self-defeating things like I'm not good enough, or I'm not going to perform very well, or I suck at wrestling, or whatever's going through your head, because you're focusing on the fact that you just lost a match. And that could be very hard for many people, especially to get over, and especially if wrestling is your huge passion. But I would really challenge you to kind of think about what are the things that you're good at that may help you process losing in a more positive way. Maybe thinking about it as, yes, I've lost one match, but that doesn't mean that I have to lose all of the rest of the matches. And I think that will really help you in terms of processing through your losing streaks. Does that
Yeah,
make sense at
it
all?
does. It does because you asked me what else I'm good at, and I know for me like I'm very social, so I love people and I'm very good at talking, and um, I'm good at listening to, and I know that that's my biggest like God given skill is people. So when I do lose and I isolate myself from people and I don't talk to anybody, um, it as you were saying that it sounded like I was putting myself in a position like what if I lost and then I like didn't isolate myself and I just talked, just kept
Mm-hmm.
like kept myself out there and just even if I'm not talking about wrestling, just messing around, just talking with my friends like that in my head like just sounded better. Like I just felt better about that environment that my mind would be in um, because I'd be more of a I'd be more quickly resilient um, if I just talk to people as opposed to isolating my own head.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, and I think talking really helps. I think talking allows you to express your emotions and kind of solidify what you're feeling instead of pressing all of those emotions back inside you and then getting mad over, something um, that wouldn't normally get you mad or upset about. And so, a big thing in therapy is that we try to work through those thoughts and we try to figure out a way how to manage your thoughts in a more healthy way so that you're processing the situation differently versus focusing only on the negative aspects of what's going on in the situation that you're in. So I mentioned or I asked you before if you had anxiety in any other areas of your life or if it's just solely related to wrestling.
Um, yeah, with like I said before, like there's pressure and everything. For me, socially, it's big on me. I've done a really good job of for the past 2 years in college, just kind of taking the pressure off, and that the less I try, the more essential fun I'll have with people. But I have a lot of pressure of just being kind of center of attention, um, and also with with girls, like I feel like I like need to have somebody. I need to have someone like the or else my self worth isn't quite there. If I get a glimpse of someone that may like me and I like them back, like I get super excited and I almost obsess over it to the point where I kind of blow it. Like, I kind of I think that also may like be like self fulfilling, where it's like, okay, how can I blow it this time? You know, so it's a lot of pressure where I just kind of fall on myself um, socially. Academically, I don't put too much pressure on myself, and I do well. I think because of that fact, um, because obviously I'm stressed with finals and stuff like that, just like everybody else, but it's not as much as wrestling here socially.
So it sounds like you, especially in regards to girls, when you feel like you like someone or when you feel like, you're really interested in someone, you kind of dive right in and you put yourself out there and then if it doesn't work out, then you think you're a failure, that you failed or, kind of reiterating those self-defeating things that we were talking about in regards to wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that would again lead back to your thoughts and how your thoughts are directly affecting your mood and the situation that you place yourself in and how that affects the way that you kind of perceive what's happening around you. And so um, with that elicits some patterns that you're having, and so some of those struggles, um, it appears like is occurring in different areas of your life. Is that accurate, or do you feel like it's solely in women and then wrestling?
I think it's a pattern.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, what do you think about that? What do you have you recognized that pattern, or have you talked about that pattern with other people, or do you just kind of push it away and not seem to care about it at all? Or
Talk to my friends a lot about well recently about I guess both. More recently about this current girl that I like right now, and uh, the main advice just like dude, don't overthink it, um, because I do overthink it, and what they're talking about is um, you can't control, or I can't control what she does or doesn't do. You know, if I freak out, she doesn't text me back or Snapchat or whatever. You know, she doesn't do it in the time that I want her to. Um, I freak out, and there's no, and that's the worst because it's in a environment where I can't control, I can't win because I don't know what she's gonna do. And even when she does exactly what I want to do, what I want her to do, like she texts me a lot, calls me a lot, whatever, you know, and I even then it's like I can't win. I'm just like, oh, this is eventually gonna stop, and I'm gonna start freaking out again because she's not gonna do exactly what I want her to do, and I'm gonna find a way to break it
Mm-hmm.
because yeah, that's surprisingly real in my head what I just said, and it scares me that's true.
Yeah, and that could be really self-defeating and that could be really scary, especially for, a person who dives right in and really wants things to work out. And so I think that's a very real thought, and I think that you have a lot of insight in regards to how you process different situations in your head and how you really want things to work out. And then again, reiterating that pressure that you put on yourself to do well and to perform well and to make sure people like you and to do all those things. And so, yeah, I understand how that would be, super challenging to think about. Um, have you ever heard of a cognitive behavioral thought record before?
No.
Okay, so this is kind of a new thing, and it might take you a couple of times to really process what's happening. But I'm hoping that writing down your thoughts will help you kind of process what situations you're putting yourself in and recognizing more directly the patterns that you're engaging in to help reduce your anxiety and help provide a more positive atmosphere for the anxiety that you're experiencing in regards to wrestling or females or putting social pressure on you or talking to your friends and a bunch of different situations it works. um, and so here's a sheet, the cognitive behavioral theory thought record. And so basically it's super easy. So throughout each session, what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you fill this out. And so before each session, you'll fill this out, and then we'll talk about it. And we'll talk about kind of what situations you experienced when we haven't met, and how we can work through some of those situations. So basically, how it works is you're going to first say where you were. So, what situation you were in this column, you want to be very specific. So you want to say where you were, what time you were at, or what time you were in that situation, who you were with, that sort of thing. And then you're going to talk about your emotion or your feeling that you're experiencing in that direct moment. And so you might felt overwhelmed, you might felt depressed, you might have felt sad, self-defeated, um, and list all of the emotions that you're feeling and be very honest with yourself and really try to dig deep into those emotions that you're trying to repress or not think about. um, and then additionally with those emotions you're going to rate on a scale of 1 to 100 how severe those emotions are, 100% being the most severe that you've ever experienced that particular
Mm-hmm.
emotion. And again, be honest with yourself. If you're experiencing a lot of depression or sadness, rate that higher than something that you wouldn't be experiencing a whole lot of. Um, and then you're going to go to your negative automatic thought. And your negative automatic thought is the immediate thought that pops into your mind in that specific situation. So, for example, in wrestling, you talked about, if you lost a match, your immediate negative thought would be, wow, I'm a failure, or I
Mm-hmm.
suck at wrestling, or I'm never going to win another match. So that would be your negative automatic thought that you would write down here. And then you're going to talk about some evidence that supports the thought. So you're going to talk about some of the things that makes you think that this negative automatic thought is true. So in regards to wrestling, if your negative automatic thought is, wow, I really suck at wrestling, some evidence that might support that is you might say, well, I just lost a match, and so that's really self-defeating. I'm not that good. Or you might say that I'm not the best on the team. Ben Henley is way better than me, so obviously I'm not as good as him. Um, so that would go in that category. And then you're going to talk about some evidence that does not support the thought. So, evidence that goes against your negative automatic thought of what you're feeling. So, essentially, that would prove your negative automatic thought to be false.
Mm.
So, that evidence in regards to wrestling might be I made the wrestling team. You know, some people might try out for the wrestling team. I'm not sure if it's a group that you have to try out for, but you know, some people might be thinking that you know they're really bad and they might not even try to try out, and so you thought that you were good enough to try out and at least you know participate in the group, and so that shows that you're better than most average wrestlers. Another thing that you could say is I practice a lot. You know, I we didn't really talk about it in this session particularly, but I'm assuming that you practice a lot for wrestling, especially if you have tournaments quite frequently. And so, if you practice a lot, then you're doing something to advance your skill and you're trying to improve, you know, your wrestling techniques and stuff. So that would be evidence that does not support the negative automatic thought. And then you're going to talk about your alternative thoughts. So, what's something that you can tell yourself instead of having this negative automatic thought, you know, particularly right after wrestling. So, if your negative automatic thought was, I suck at wrestling, you know, your alternative thought could be, I just experienced a loss, but that doesn't mean that I'm not going to win any other matches.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of incorporating the negative automatic thought, but then kind of putting it towards a more positive outlook. So that will help you reduce your anxiety and help you feel more comfortable in the situation that you're in. And then lastly, you're going to talk about your emotion or your feeling. And so again, you're going to go back to the emotion or your feeling that you were feeling at the very beginning of the situation. Add those particular emotions that you were feeling back in this last column, and then rate your emotions again or your feelings that you were feeling. And it's really important to note that you know these particular emotions may not go down at all, and they may not change at all, and that's totally okay. I mean, you don't need to feel that your emotions need to drastically take a huge decrease. However, really try to work on you know how this thought exercise helped you process those emotions.
Yeah.
And then you might want to add some other emotions that you're feeling. And so you could feel surprised or you could feel happy, etc. And so then you would want to add those and then rate those again on a scale of 1 to 100%. And it's really important for these emotions or feelings that you only have one word. So you might be experiencing a lot of different emotions at once, but you want to make sure that you only put down one specific word. So, you know, if you say, wow, I'm feeling really stressed out that wrestling is not going very well, or I'm feeling really, you know, angry that I lost, you just want to make sure you write down one particular emotion or feeling.
Yeah.
Does this thought record kind of make sense?
Yeah, it does.
In the different columns that I explained to you? Okay, perfect. So I'm going to give you this blank cognitive behavioral thought record, and we're going to do a practice one in session so that you can be able to take this home, and then the next time we meet, you can kind of know how the structure is and then how we're going to talk about it within the next session. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so you kind of talked about how you have some anxiety towards females as well, right? So let's have you fill out the CBT thought record for females. So let's start with the first, where were you and what situation you were in? Think of any time that you were experiencing anxiety with a particular female or...
Yeah, okay. Let's go with last night. I was on the bus going to St. Joe with my friends, and I just texted this girl that I like. Let's call her Rachel. I just texted Rachel, and I said we were gonna hang out. We were gonna like it was possible because she was like really tired from the day and whatever. She's like, I'm not sure if like I can even like stay up right now. I'm so tired. I'm like, okay. So I texted him like, assuming we're not gonna see each other tonight. Like, have a good sleep. I'll see you tomorrow if you can or whatever. I texted her that at like 11, and I was scared that she wasn't gonna respond. Um, Uh, actually, no, let's just go with right now. Right now, she hasn't responded yet. This is last night, and I still haven't responded. So, and I haven't talked to her since. So I'm right here, right now in session, thinking about that. That's where I am. Emotion or feeling, I am scared. I feel like I already blew it. Um, I feel essentially stressed. I feel just anxious about it. I feel that no matter what's going to happen, I'm just going to feel anxious anyway. Um, and that's, I guess, my negative automatic thought as well. Um,
Okay, so
thinking,
just to reiterate,
mm-hmm.
so where were you? So you're talking about this current therapy session right now.
I do, yeah.
And so obviously it is 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and you're with me, Jessica.
Yeah.
And so that's what you would write for. Where were you? So you did a great job with that. Your emotional fear or feeling, you said that you were scared.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't quite hear you rate your emotion or feeling on a scale of 1 to 100%. So
Gotcha.
how scared do you think that you are right now in this current situation?
Not too bad. It was worse before. I'd say like 40 or 50. Um, also, like, kind of worthless as a, I guess, as a romantic, um, someone that's looking for a romantic love. I feel like I'm just not good at it.
Okay.
Kind of worthless at it. And that's kind of like a 60%.
So your emotion would be worthless then.
Kind of, yeah, yes,
Okay.
yes. And then or a level of worthlessness, and then negative automated thought, like I already blew it, and it was something that was really great, and I already messed it up, and it's literally all my fault because of that.
Okay.
And the evidence that supports that thought, um, uh, honestly, I don't really see much evidence that I can point to. Besides, I may have been a little forceful with, like, yesterday, because she told me that she'd probably be able to hang out last night, and yesterday afternoon, I was like, "So you gonna let me hang out with you or what?" Like, just I text her that like kind of like a joking manner. And then she goes, "It's like it's just possible, I'm not sure yet." Um,
Have you ever had relationships in the past where they have failed or not worked out?
yes.
Okay, so that also might be some evidence that might support feeling, oh shoot, I blew it, or this is never going to work out for me because my past relationships didn't work out, so why would this relationship work out?
Yeah, it's confidence. I like
Mm-hmm.
at the beginning of this week. That's where her and I clicked super well. We spent like 14 hours in the car together because we drove home and back, and like I was so confident. I was just like, this girl, she's awesome. She likes me a lot. Like we clicked, and now it's like almost back at zero. But that could change with the text that she sends me. But at the same time, it's still self-defeating because I could still just, yeah. Evidence that does not support that thought. She told me like 2 days ago, like I like you a lot, like you so much, you know. And internally, if I really think about it, um, I like her, and I haven't felt this way about a person for a while. So that is pretty solid evidence in my eyes that I feel like it shouldn't, if it does end, not this quickly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Um, an alternative thought, um, uh, is that like talking about like how I could think about it differently?
Yeah, in a more positive
Gotcha.
sense.
Um, there are a million reasons not to answer a text. Um, and if honestly, I think she's definitely still interested. I think there's definitely something there. It hasn't been like a super long time since we talked. It's been like 24 hours, and it seems to me like forever. And that in my head is kind of pathetic. That I feel like it's been like 4 days, but we haven't talked like one day. And if she doesn't want me in the end, like honestly, like I'm confident enough in myself and how cool I am that it's essentially that like it really is her loss. Like, and I will find someone fantastic again at some point. but I just want it now. That's where it comes. That's where the whole negative thoughts come. It's I want it right now, and if I don't get it right now, I feel like it's not right. Um, and right now, my emotion about it is, uh, I guess, talking about levels of worthlessness, maybe down like a 10, because, and I feel like more strength in my voice right now. I feel more confident about who I am just internally. Um, what was another thing that I said before? I
You
said
said scared.
scared. Still like 20 or 30% scared because I know she's gonna text me at one point, and I'm just gonna read into it so much. But at the same time, I could alternatively think about that as well. Like I don't need to read it; it's just text, you know. So feel better about it.
Good job.
Thank you.
I think that you did a very nice job filling out these thought record. I think that, or this particular thought record, I think that oftentimes it's really challenging to really kind of focus internally on the thoughts that are processing through your minds, because I think some of those thoughts can be so ingrained in your head that you start to not even think about what you're actually thinking about, and then all of a sudden you have this particular mood or this particular behavior and this particular mindset that, wow, I'm really going to suck at wrestling, or wow, I'm really going to mess this up with this particular female that I like. And so it can be challenging to really address why you're feeling that particular way. And so I thought you did a very nice job with this thought record. And essentially, this thought record is just trying to help you process those thoughts and help you think about the situation more positively, so that we can really try to figure out different ways of thinking about certain things, so that you can overall reduce your anxiety and then feel better about the situation that you're in, regardless of what area in your life you're in, or whether it be with wrestling, females, academics, regardless of what those areas are. Do you feel comfortable using this thought record? Do you feel like it's something that will help you in the future if we start to fill these out and then talk about it in session together?
Um, yes, I think it'd be really helpful. It already helped. It helped me out like immensely in that like 2 minutes I went over it. So
Okay, great. So next time, what I'm going to have you do, largely in the cognitive behavioral perspective approach, my role is kind of to teach you how to think differently, how to think differently about the world, to, like I said, reduce your anxiety and help you process different situations differently. And so that often involves some homework. And so with the CBT thought record, what I'm going to have you do for next session is just think of a couple of situations, or if you're going through the week, think about a couple of situations that cause you really high anxiety, or when you can feel yourself feeling a very particular emotion or feeling that's really strong. And I want you to fill out this thought record when you're experiencing those feelings. And it doesn't matter if it's one experience or if it's three experiences. We can talk about all of them within the next session. But I would really encourage you to think really deeply about those experiences and process those emotions, and then we can talk about that within the next session. Does that sound okay?
yeah,
All right, perfect. It was really nice to meet you. I'm glad that our first session went really great.
mm-hmm.
Do you have any feedback for me regarding anything that I said that might have caused you some anxiety, or do you feel like you're going to work well with me? Because we can always switch you to a different therapist if you don't feel comfortable.
No, um, I think you killed it. You're very empathetic, and it's easy for me to talk to you because of that. So thank you.
All right, great. So
Yeah.
I will see you next week sometime with your CBT thought record filled out, and then we will process through whatever that looks like next week.
Okay.
Great.
Thank
Nice
you.
to meet you, Brian.